Have you ever sat alone and asked yourself, when did the closeness between me and my children begin to fade? You poured your life into raising them. You soothed fevers at 2 a.m. Stayed up waiting for them to come home, skipped your own dreams so they could chase theirs. You sacrificed more than most people will ever know, all for love. And now, they interrupt when you speak. They roll their eyes at your advice. They're too busy to return your call, too distracted to really see you. And slowly, painfully, it starts to feel like you've become invisible. If that feeling hits home, you are not alone. There comes a season in many parents' lives when everything shifts. You were once their anchor, their guide, their safety, their answer to everything. But now it feels like you've faded into the background. Maybe they treat you like you don't know what you're talking about. Maybe they act like you're in the way. Or maybe the silence between you has become the loudest pain of all. It's normal to feel hurt, to want to remind them of all you've done, to raise your voice or shut the door. But here's what might surprise you. Respect can't be demanded. It must be inspired. And today we'll talk about how to do exactly that. How to reclaim your place, not through guilt or anger, but through steady boundaries, quiet confidence, and deep self-respect. These aren't tactics, they are transformations, and they begin with you. Reason 1. Stop trying so hard to please them. Let's begin with something that may quietly be draining your dignity, trying too hard to be agreeable. Have you ever said yes when every part of you wanted to say no? Agreed to something just to avoid tension? Rearranged your day, your comfort, even your health, just so your children wouldn't be upset? You're not alone. Many older parents do this unconsciously, thinking they're being loving or keeping the peace. You might have skipped a doctor's appointment to watch the grandkids. You might have smiled through a conversation even though your child spoke to you with a tone that cut deep. Why? Because it felt easier than being called difficult. But here's the hard truth. The more you try to earn their approval, the more you lose their respect. Not because your children are unkind, but because people instinctively respect what stands firm, not what always gives way. I once heard the story of Diane, a mother of 3. She spent decades giving her all. But in her later years, she quietly let her children take control over her health decisions, her finances, even who came to visit her home. "I just want peace in the family," she said. But what happened was subtle and painful. The more she yielded, the less seriously they took her. She wasn't seen as generous anymore. She was seen as someone whose opinion didn't carry weight. And that's what we forget. Respect doesn't come from sacrificing ourselves. It comes from honoring ourselves. When you constantly put yourself last, you send a quiet signal that your time, needs, and feelings are negotiable, and others respond accordingly. So if this is hitting close to home, let this be a turning point. You do not need to earn your children's respect by shrinking. It's okay to say no. It's okay to set firm, kind boundaries. You are not being rude. You are being real. The more you carry yourself with quiet self-respect, the more others begin to adjust their tone, their behavior, their expectations. And slowly, almost without realizing it, your children begin to see you not as someone desperate for harmony, but as someone who deserves it. Reason 2, stop arguing, start leading. Now let's address something that feels instinctive, but often backfires: the urge to argue. When your child speaks to you dismissively or uses a tone that stings, the natural response is to push back. You may want to say, "How can you talk to me like that after everything I've done?" You may want to shout, defend, remind, or even guilt them into treating you better. And truthfully, you have every right to feel that way. But here's the painful irony. Arguing rarely wins respect. In fact, it usually does the opposite. Because when we react with anger, it shows the other person that they still hold emotional power over us. The more we fight, the more we reinforce the dynamic that we're trying so hard to escape. There's a better way. A quieter, stronger way. Stop reacting. Start leading. Respond to disrespect not with fire, but with grounded calm. Not with emotional chaos, but with unshakable dignity. That sends a different message. I won't fight to prove my value because I already know it. Let me tell you about Charles, a retired principal with decades of experience commanding respect in his school. But at home, with his adult kids, it was a different story. They rolled their eyes, interrupted him, even laughed at his suggestions. At first, he fought every time. Debates turned into battles, and holidays became exhausting. Until one day, Charles stopped engaging in the tug-of-war. He didn't go silent. He still shared his thoughts, but without attachment to being right. He stopped arguing and started standing. He began showing up as someone who didn't need to win the room to feel whole. And slowly, his children noticed. They leaned in more. They interrupted less, not because he demanded respect, but because he embodied it. That's the secret. You don't earn respect through volume. You earn it through presence. Your calm becomes your strength. Your steadiness becomes your influence. And your children, they'll begin to feel something they may not have felt in a long time: admiration. Not for what you say loudly, but for what you hold quietly. Reason 3, don't depend on them emotionally. Here's a truth that may sting at first, but ultimately frees you. Your emotional fulfillment does not need to come from your children. Yes, you love them. Yes, you do anything for them. But expecting them to meet your emotional needs, your need for appreciation, validation, or closeness, can quietly shift the relationship into imbalance. Why? Because when your sense of joy hinges on their attention, their words, or how often they call, you place your peace in someone else's hands. And over time, that dependency can feel heavy to them and disempowering to you. What your children respect most isn't your love for them. It's your ability to live fully without leaning on them for emotional fuel. Take Alina, a retired librarian in her early 70s. When her kids moved across the country, she felt devastated. She called daily, sent long messages, left voicemails when they didn't reply. She didn't mean to overwhelm them. She simply missed the warmth they used to share. But gradually, they stopped responding. The more she reached out, the more distant they became. She felt invisible and confused. Then one afternoon, after a tearful conversation with a friend, Alina made a decision. She would stop waiting by the phone. She dusted off her old sketchbooks, signed up for a local watercolor class, joined a weekend hiking group. She reconnected with her own rhythm, and something beautiful happened. Her phone began to ring, not because she begged for their time, but because her children wanted to talk. They were curious about her life again, because now she was no longer chasing their presence. She was drawing it in through her own vitality. This isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about remembering who you are outside of your role as a parent. When your joy comes from within, when your day feels meaningful even if no one checks in, your children will sense that strength, and they'll respect it. So the next time you feel the ache of being overlooked, remind yourself, your value isn't determined by who calls or visits. It's in how brightly you live. Regardless, and that light, it speaks louder than any words ever could. Reason 4, set clear boundaries if you want respect to take root again. Real, lasting respect. Then one element is non-negotiable: clear, loving boundaries. Contrary to popular belief, boundaries aren't cold or confrontational. They are acts of love, toward others, yes, but especially toward yourself. They tell the world, this is how I deserve to be treated. And here's the truth many older parents don't hear enough. Disrespect from adult children doesn't always come from malice. More often, it grows silently. Through patterns that were never corrected, through moments where you stayed quiet to keep the peace, through habits that slowly became the norm. You might think, I don't want to seem dramatic, or they're just tired, it's not worth it. But every time you allow someone to speak to you in a way that diminishes you, even with a sigh, a dismissive comment, or an eye roll, you're quietly teaching them what's acceptable. And love without boundaries, it doesn't build closeness, it builds quiet resentment. Take James, a retired engineer in his late 60s. He once run major teams, managed multi-million-dollar projects, and was deeply respected in his field. But around his grown children, he often felt like a ghost. They interrupted him constantly, ignored his advice. Once, his daughter even laughed mid-sentence as he shared a story from his youth. At first, James swallowed the hurt. It's nothing, he told himself, but the feeling lingered. One evening, after being cut off one too many times, James calmly put down his fork at the dinner table and said, I don't expect agreement, but I do expect respect. If we can't speak to one another that way, I'll take some space until we can. There was silence, but not tension. Clarity. He didn't threaten or raise his voice. He simply drew a line, and to his surprise, that line held power. From that moment on, the dynamic changed. His children became more thoughtful, more present. Conversations grew calmer. They listened. Not because he demanded obedience, but because he modeled dignity. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you love them less. It means you love yourself enough to no longer accept what hurts you. So the next time your voice is drowned out or your presence dismissed, ask yourself gently, what behavior am I teaching them is okay? And then set the boundary, not with anger, but with steady calm, because when you hold yourself to a higher standard, others will rise to meet it. Reason 5, stop overgiving without appreciation. There's a quiet pattern many older parents fall into, and it's one of the hardest to recognize until the damage is done. It's the habit of giving and giving long past the point of being seen. You help them move house, babysit grandkids on short notice, lend money without hesitation, drop everything because they asked, not because you expect a parade, not because you want anything extravagant in return, but because love to you has always meant showing up. And yet, the thanks are less frequent. The calls come only when they need something, and when you finally need help, no one shows up. That's when it hits. Your kindness has become a convenience, your generosity, expected. That was the case for Arthur, a widowed grandfather who'd spent decades supporting his 3 children through every twist in life. He fixed cars, paid surprise bills, even skipped a friend's funeral to babysit during a last-minute emergency. But after a routine medical procedure left him weak and alone, none of his kids offered to stay the night. They were busy, they said. That moment didn't just disappoint him, it awakened him. Arthur didn't lash out, he didn't guilt-trip them, he simply paused and made a powerful choice, no more unfiltered giving. He began to evaluate each request. Was it urgent? Was it mutual? Was it acknowledged? If not, his response was gentle but firm. I'd love to help, but I have a commitment that day. Or, I'm available if we can plan it together and both pitch in. The shift wasn't dramatic, but it was steady. At first, his children were confused. One even accused him of being different. But soon, something remarkable happened. They began to appreciate him again. Not because he was constantly available, but because he finally was. Here's the truth many overlook. Endless giving without boundaries doesn't create love. It creates imbalance. It teaches others not to cherish you, but to rely on you without reflection. Pulling back even slightly allows people to feel your absence. And when they feel it, they remember your worth. So don't stop being generous, but do stop being invisible in your generosity. Because love given with self-respect doesn't just help others, it heals you too. Let's pause gently and come back to this quiet truth. You were never meant to be defined only by your role as a parent. You are a whole person, with your own memories, passions, preferences, humor, curiosity, and quiet dreams. And one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, and your children, is to live a life that isn't tethered solely to them. That might feel unfamiliar at first, especially if you've spent decades pouring yourself into raising your family. Maybe you told yourself, I'll start living for me once the kids are okay. But here's the thing, they're grown now. And so the question becomes, what brings you joy? Because when your children see you thriving, not just surviving, not waiting for their calls, not shrinking in the background, they start to see you differently, not with pity or guilt, but with admiration. They begin to notice the strength in your steps, the lightness in your laughter, the way you hold your head just a little higher. And slowly, they stop seeing you as someone clinging to the past and start seeing someone boldly embracing the present. You're not just mom or dad anymore. You're someone with a story, still unfolding. So whether it's joining a book club, taking dance lessons, spending a quiet afternoon at the park, rekindling friendships, or booking that solo trip you've always dreamed of, you are allowed to live fully, to explore, to shine. And as you start speaking your truth more clearly, as you begin setting gentle boundaries, as you release the old ache of waiting to be seen, you'll notice the shift, less tension, more peace, fewer eggshells, more grounded presence. Not because they suddenly became perfect children, but because you reclaimed your place in the relationship. That's the secret. Respect doesn't come from pleading or proving. It flows from the quiet dignity of someone who knows their worth and lives like it. And the moment you start doing that, the entire energy around you begins to change. Not through noise, not through anger, but through calm presence, clear boundaries, and radiant self-respect. You deserve that right now. Just as you are,